So in the last episode, I showed you how I go about raising the track beds. Now with this design, in garage mode, it would be fairly simple to complete this track plan, but obviously I'm doing an exhibition layout, so the whole thing will come apart and join together, and that's the bit I've come to today. So I've removed these end boards, and I've got to join this end with this end. And just like that, I've taken the end off here, joined it here, and lined up the pieces of track. Now I've got to reverse that and put it all back together. I think someone's really bored. Give me a thumbs up if you want me to go and pet Lulu. There's a thumbs up. Yes! So hello and welcome to New Junction. Now you can probably tell from that intro that I actually put the ends back together and have since completed the raised track bed. So as you can see just behind me there, I've got trains running again, but now on a full loop. So before we continue, I think the best thing you can do to any layout is get trains running as soon as possible, because that's the best way to find out any problems with the plans that you have. Right. The 37's coming into the station. Let's have a play. I've always said that the best way to find out any issues or potential areas for improvement with any new layout is to get trains running as soon as possible and to have a play, because that'll soon open up things that you would like to do while still early enough in the build that you can make changes. So I've been busy while been having a play with the Hall and the 37, and as you can see, I've written a few notes for things that I would like to change before we go any further on. And what I'll do now is I'll run you through a few of the observations that I've noted, and hopefully some of them will make sense to you and potentially help you with your own layouts for what to look out for later on. So first things first, I'm going to start at the station and go clockwise around to me. Now, this station, I love the slight sweeping curve. It's just the right size because I've got an engine and 5 coaches. I've got a train with 15, 16 wagons on, perfect for a heritage line. They're not too big, they're not too small. And one of the big advantages to having a heritage line is you get away with much smaller trains and therefore you've got more space to run. So no problem there. The problem I face, having it in situ, is I need to give the main line, which will be higher still, enough room to breathe, and we'll see that again on the opposite side. So it needs enough space to be able to cut in, to be able to have a larger radius sweeping curve as possible. So in reality, I think the main line is going to cut potentially too far over the top of this station. So I'm thinking about moving the station down a bit, ever so slightly. In the scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, particularly in exhibition mode. This also will benefit itself because some points further down, which I'll show you in a moment, need to move anyway, because I can't really have points over a baseboard gap like we see here. As fewer cuts in the track, the better. But yeah, so I really like it. I'm just going to take it and move it down ever so slightly. Right, let's move further on. So I've come a bit further down the baseboards and you can probably see a bit clearer here now. The point section leaving the station is right on a baseboard join. Now, being modular, I do expect to periodically take this layout apart, and I don't really want to frustrate more track edges than I need to. So by moving the station down sort of 6 to 10, 12 inches or so, that'll give me a much better position to cut through the track, and potentially easy to disguise as well, because if we've got platform here, you won't necessarily see the gap in the track. We could cover it with, say, a passenger bridge or whatnot. The other point I've noticed now, particularly with playing with the trains, is my sort of storage sidings, which you traditionally see at the end of a heritage line station. These were traditionally, for example, if this was a double track main line in its day, the volunteers would normally implement a bit too much double track to use the sidings here to store trains on. Now, I learnt this actually from building one of Hornby Magazine's latest layouts, which you'll see very shortly on YouTube. So keep your eyes peeled. Building the Great Central Railway, shameless plug. It's always worth, however realistic, to extend these to the size of your trains. Now, both my platform spaces are the same size, give or take. So they'll fit either size train, which is perfect. Now, to aid play value with any layout, it's always worth increasing the size of your sidings to match your longest train. So the joy here, it's easy to say, on a heritage line is they're much shorter trains. So as I've seen with the Hall and its wagons, I only really get half the train in the siding. So if I simulate now, you see really I've only got room for 3 coaches, where in reality I need 2 more coaches and an engine to be able to sit out the way. And as you can see, that takes me right off the edge. So the storage sidings either side of the platform are going to be made longer so they can fit a full-size train in. That's nothing more than adding to the play value, and I think that's very important, because there's nothing worse than having a train out and just thinking I want to run another one, and not having somewhere to put it out the way without having to take it off the track. It's not so important in exhibition mode because you'll have the storage sidings behind the main scene, but as you can see in garage mode or in a normal layout, it's just nice to be able to swap and change between them all, where realism isn't necessarily top factor. So as you can see, I've moved the camera back and got out the way. You can see on the left of your screens here is the end of the 3 coaches which I had in the station siding. Now you've got the garage mode end, which isn't very realistic. It's very tight curves. They're still about radius 4 on that single line there, but that's absolutely fine. To extend the line at the end of the station, so here going that way, in exhibition mode means it would join this gap here coming out a bit. So what it does allow me to do is have an extension down here for extra storage. So there is an advantage to that, in which I can join them and having a second track here, which creates even more storage in garage mode, which I think's quite a win. So that's a really good improvement, I think. Right, let's head over to the engine shed zone. So here we are on the engine shed side of the heritage line. Now, for all intents and purposes, it's quite nice, very simple, but very nice. It's got lots of potential. Very similar to the issue I had with the station track work, is the points sit perfectly on a baseboard join. So 2-pronged approach. One is I need to bring the point work this way towards me, so it's not over a baseboard join. The second thing on the itinerary is I think it's too long. So bearing in mind what you can see is 2 straight lengths of 3 on this edge. It's taking up 2, and in reality I want to try and maybe make it take no more than 1 1/4. So this whole scene is going to come all the way down as far as possible, and try and squeeze into this section, because I want as much running scene for the heritage line as possible without anything extra. So there'll be plenty on the opposite side with the station. We've got the engine shed, of course. When it's all joined together in exhibition mode, it will look quite busy, while still hopefully maintaining the less is more. But I do want a section of track that we can just have single track running, which would be very nice. There is one other thing with this which I've noticed far too late. I didn't think about it at all, but I will go on to the other side of the baseboards now and I'll show you what that is. So one of the other things I noticed about having the engine shed on what will be the viewing side when in exhibition mode is the engine shed area potentially will block much of the running line of the heritage line, because obviously the opposite side is mainly station, and really the only place for a train to get up to any speed is sort of here onwards, and run on its own. So I had a question mark, and the question mark there is, do I leave the engine shed where it is, because it's going to be greatly reduced in size in terms of it's not going to spread as far up the boards? Do I lower the engine shed by a little bit? Do I have enough room to lower it? Or do I switch it completely over and put it on the right hand side as we're looking at it, bearing in mind that there will be a main line going across the back there. And I don't really want it to take up any more of the baseboard than it has to. So you see, it's left me with a bit of a dilemma, and especially from eye height, when you're watching a train go by, it really does get in the way. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I have to say I'm leaning towards keeping it where it is. It was a question mark that flagged up for me, because I did it in the original New Junction layout. I had the engine shed on the viewing side, and it blocked my main line. So you'll have to do me a favour, and you'll have to let me know in the comments down below which one you'd prefer to see if you were watching this. Would you prefer to see the engine shed and the various details and movements on this side, or hide it away on the opposite side, not blocking the main line? So I always knew one of the big trade-offs when creating New Junction in the double format of the baseboards being able to go together in two different ways was this edge on garage mode was always going to be a tight section. Because these edges here, so where the boards go off into the straight section, have to be straight, I can't have the curves start before they've crossed this line down here where the 37 is just crossing now. This does mean it looks rather tight compared to the rest of the layout. Now, it is still a 4-foot radius curve, so I mean it's plenty big enough for pretty much any ready-to-run rolling stock. However, it just looks a bit odd, and particularly when the main line is above it as well, that'll equally have to go as far wide around the edge. So how that'll end up will be interesting. So there are ways and means to disguise this with scenery, and I'm actually quite looking forward to that, because you don't want anything to be too easy, but this is definitely the trade-off of the track plan. Is on the face of it, this edge is the bit where you lose a bit of the realism. However, I'm looking forward to the challenge, like I said, so it's all part of the fun. Now, oddly, for doing a raised track bed, I don't think it looks too bad for a first attempt. Remembering none of it is stuck down, none of it is glued. Yes, it's screwed in place and whatnot, but it can all be removed, because that was the idea. I wanted to get trains running to see how it was. Now, while in essence this may sound a bit of a negative video so far, but I'm very happy with it, there is one area which I think needs to drastically change, and that's this sweeping curve coming into the heritage line. Now, if I follow the original track plan a bit more closely, the heritage line comes in much tighter to this end and then turns in at much more of an angle, while still being realistic. Now, the benefit of hindsight, now I've done it, is I need to leave, as I said earlier, breathing space for the main line, which will be above again. Now, if they've got big sweeping curves, and I predict they'll go all the way out to the edge to be sweeping, to come in, this is probably going to be at the wrong angle. And bearing in mind all this is going to be hillside anyway, you're not going to see this bit. The train needs to come out here, so at least it has a bit more open running, where it's not stuck underneath mainline track. Because in theory, because we're going to have a double junction here for the main line above, one of them may follow this track a bit too closely, particularly until further down. So this is going to drastically come in, and it's going to be a much more of an angle going towards the engine shed further down. As I said though, it's quite a positive thing picking out all the relative negatives or improvements needed. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's definitely going to keep me busy. So coming back to the main sweeping end, now these will be the ends that are on show at the exhibition. There is, I think, an advantage to having a hidden passing loop purely for the garage mode, just where the hall is now. So on this entire curve, there'll be a second track which will be hidden inside a tunnel, whether it be in exhibition mode or a garage mode. And that's again just to store another train out of the way, but keep it hidden from sight, and just to give a bit more playability to the layout, while also giving a train somewhere to go. So you could leave the station, you don't necessarily have to be stored in a storage siding, you can be hidden away in a passing loop in the tunnel. Now I'll see how that goes, because obviously the curves are going to change on this edge here, but that should be doable, and again, it'll add some real play value, particularly to garage mode. So here we are at the end of another video. I want to initially thank you all for watching. If anything you can take from this video, it's to remember you don't have to stick to your original plans. Half the fun of model railwaying is being able to do what you want, because ultimately it's your railway. So as you've seen, in the space of what is in reality probably 6 weeks or so, I've changed quite a few of the initial track plans just on the heritage line, and that's before we get to the second higher layer, which is the main line. So you can see it's going to be quite a fun journey. It always was going to be a relative uphill battle for someone like myself to make a layout work in garage, full circle mode and exhibition mode. However, so far I can say, touch wood, I'm enjoying the challenge. So we look forward to more progress. So what I'm going to do now is, off camera, I'm going to get on with all those changes and hopefully have the Heritage Railway sorted, ready for the beginning of the next update. The other things to look forward to in the next one, I have treated myself to 2 new locos for the Heritage line as well. So getting trains running has really ignited the fire again to start playing with trains more often. So I will say thank you very much as ever for watching this latest update. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button should you wish, and also don't forget to let me know down in the comments below whether I should move the engine shed to this side or keep it where it is on that side. Right, it's a long outro, isn't it? Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. And as ever, I'd like to say a big thank you to the channel patrons, and they of course are Mika, Chris Moss, Stefan, Captain Tony, Southern, Bad Monkey Painting, Steve Cheeseman, Steve Lockhart, 00rail.co.uk, Alan, Christopher Hurley, Ryan Dixon, 801 Rail, Stuart Bumstead, Richard Horan, Harry Llewellyn-Jones, Paul Smith, Dylan Chesworth, Gioku Samurai, Simon Henrik, Andy Clark, CW315, Lewis Forrester, Sam Yates, Trish Bitts and Stephen Owen. Thanks a lot, guys.